Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to another brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we're going to be talking toys. We've got Chris McQuillen, the ToyMan, on, talking about their upcoming show happening September 29th. We've also got toy guru Spike Forster on to talk about our favorite Star Wars toys. After that, we've got writer David Taylor on, talking about a brand new Kickstarter he's got. All that and more. Stand by. We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you out there. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with us. If you're streaming us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to all of you out there who might be watching, like our friends Chance from down in Atlanta, and My Flock is listening from the West Coast. Hello to both of you listening in the chats right now. And of course, as always, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, we appreciate you finding and subscribing to us there. Hopefully you've subscribed by this time. Left us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast. We appreciate that, and it does help us out quite a bit. Something you can do, costs you nothing, and helps us out a lot, so we appreciate that. And we just cracked 2,300 on YouTube today, so thank you to all my new YouTube subscribers. A lot of you in the UK have found me recently, which is why I'm wearing my UK shirt today, to thank all of you over there across the pond for finding us on YouTube and checking out the show. Full show tonight, and we're going to get right into it. My guest right now has been on several times. He runs the ToyMan Toy Show at the Machinists Hall at Bridgeton and in Bridgeton at the Rock Road in 270, and he's got another one coming up in just 2 weeks from tonight. We have Chris McQuillen on the line with us. How are you? I lost Chris. He is not, but we do have Spike, who's always at ToyMan. We'll get Chris back soon. I just went to Chris and I'm like, oh, he's disconnected. We do have Spike from Lost in Space Toys and Collectibles. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'll watch the phone and see if maybe Chris disconnected, see if he can call back in. I know he said he was very busy where he was right now at the moment, so hopefully he can call back in. But we were talking the upcoming ToyMan, and Spike, you've been doing these for as long as I can remember.
Over 30 years.
Wow.
It's been wonderful.
And I know we always talk to Chris about the different collectibles, and that we talk about the show and everything like that, but it always draws such a crowd. I'm always surprised there's so many people, and I've been setting up theirs every so often, and I start to recognize people's faces, but I always see a bunch of new faces. Either that or my memory's going and I'm just forgetting people's faces, but it seems like there's always an influx of new people who find ToyMan each year.
It's amazing because Chris brings them in. It's astounding. I've been honored to do it since 87. So
wow.
Just amazing the amount of people that come in every show and support the entire area and so forth. I'm sorry, I got some blowback here, so I keep hearing myself. So
well, that's all right. That's all right. A little bit of reverb never hurt anybody. I know we just lost James Earl Jones, which was so sad, but it made me think about
it was
the Kenner Star Wars. That was my first toy line. That hit right as I was of the age. I was maybe 5 or 6 when I first saw Star Wars because they were playing it on cable, and my aunt had HBO, so I'd go over to her house and I'd love it when she babysat me because I'd get to watch HBO and Star Wars: A New Hope was on. And James Earl Jones, I've watched excerpts of just David Prowse, it may be, but as he's walking around and he's giving the lines before James Earl Jones does the voiceover, and I don't think it would have had the impact if not for James Earl Jones' voice.
That is true because he commands such a presence that people are just astounded by it. It was great. Of course, I won't tell you, I saw Star Wars like 40-something times back when it first came out, unlike you that saw it on reruns.
Yeah, the first one I saw in the theater, I was old enough to go see. My dad took me to see Return of the Jedi in '83, so I was actually old enough to go to the theater and see it.
Oh.
But I still have my original VHS copy that I got for Christmas of Empire Strikes Back, which is still my favorite of the Star Wars movies.
Yep. So you still watch it, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, now it's easy. You can just put on Disney Plus and stream it. But I've got the brand new when they released the extended edition. My wife has the when they re-released the original trilogy in '97 with the extra footage and the enhanced visuals and everything like that. So I probably own like 8 different copies of Empire Strikes Back.
Well, there you go. Everyone needs at least 8 copies.
And I'm going to pop over to the phone line because this looks like Chris McQuillen calling back in.
Is Chris back? Awesome.
Oh, no, hold on. I lost him again. Hang on. I'm going to lock you in place.
Oh, man.
And let me see if, hopefully he'll call back in. I just tried to add him, and I think I missed him. I'm texting him, so I'm really sorry. This makes for bad radio. I apologize, everybody. We're texting Chris right now to get him back.
Hey, it's live, right?
Right, exactly. It's like live theater. There's only so much you can do. All right, I
That's
texted him
right.
to try again. I'll keep an eye on the phones this time. But we were talking about the toys because that was my first line of toys that I grew up with was
Sure.
the Kenner Star Wars toys. And I think we have Chris back. Chris, do we have you?
Yeah, you have me.
Sorry about that. I went over to pull you up and disconnected. But Spike we've got Spike on the phone too, which I think you know Spike, don't you?
Yeah, some of us know him, unfortunately. But yeah, I know
Oh,
for
my
years,
gosh.
decades.
But yeah, we were talking about the loss of James Earl Jones and just that.
Oh, my gosh.
How his if you take away his voice and you see the actor David Prowse doing the motions and he's giving the lines and some of the unedited stuff, it's night and day.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a great loss within the Star Wars, and not even Star Wars, Disney movies. And all the other Field of Dreams. I mean, it goes on and on of what James Earl Jones has given to Hollywood and to his following.
Yeah, and all the theater. I mean, just the live theater, because Spike and I were just
Correct.
talking about how this is live. We're kind of, I apologize because I was texting you to get you back on, and but that's the live theater that he's done, and all the fantastic movies and his comedic roles that he's done. Just what an incredible! He did a great. Someone posted it. I don't remember the name of the movie, but someone posted a clip where he shows up in a Robin Williams comes in his store to buy something, and James Earl Jones has a bit of a stutter, and it was hilarious.
No, I have to check that one out. I've not seen or heard of that one.
I should have shared the clip. Maybe I'll have to go back and find that and see if I can share it on my Facebook page. But
Okay.
talking about the toys, because I know, Chris, you've got quite a Star Wars collection yourself.
I do have a few pieces that are considered mementos from growing up, which I'll eventually grow up at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Never.
I was going to say, I think growing up's overrated. I'm trying my best to not do that. But
Yeah, it's a whole adulting thing. Adulting has bills, but then we have the toys that go back and go, yeah, bills can wait.
Yeah, and I think your name, Spike, Lost in Space Toys and Collectibles, triggered our listener from Georgia. He runs the Nostalgic Pod Blast, and he said evidently 59 years ago tonight, Lost in Space hit the CBS airwaves. So it's
And he's probably correct on that.
even more appropriate that we have you on for for tonight.
Well, thank you.
So I remember Star Wars toys, and Chris, we lost you for this portion of it, but Spike and I were talking about this was my first toy line I ever ended up watching. I was just old enough to see Return of the Jedi in 1983 was my first in the theater experience with Star Wars, but I had a VHS of Empire Strikes Back. I watched A New Hope on HBO Max at my, or HBO then, at my aunt's house. But I remember the toys were my first introduction to action figures and toys and everything like that. And I think one of the very first birthday presents that I remember getting was the Millennium Falcon, which is still to me one of the coolest toys ever made.
Oh, definitely, Millennium Falcon, and I loved. There used to be a shop in a toy store in Fairview Heights called the Toy Chest, and going in there and just having the wall of Star Wars stuff. And I think the coolest piece I had was obviously Millennium Falcon. I love the AT-ATs and the X-Wing fighters, but I had the remote control Jawa crawler, which to have it now is amazing to have. But I remember having one in the house. It was like, oh, this is so slow. But that's exactly what it was in the movie. But then the R2D2 remote control R2D2, which was an amazing piece of R2D2 and remote to have in that 70s and going into the 80s. It's amazing because that toy line just opened up our kids' eyes to R2 actually beeps and he walks and he does all this stuff that we can actually relive the movie again, especially New Hope, and to us it was Star Wars, and it's the first movie versus the fourth movie.
Right.
Nonetheless, we love what we love. I love the first movie or the New Hope. My favorite is, I'm sorry, Empire Strikes Back, but I think it's because of the AT-ATs, because I love snow, and I just love the storyline of the Empire Strikes Back. It's just an amazing movie out of the first three, of course.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite of the four. Do you have, I'm wondering, Spike, because I know for people who don't know, Spike has like 5 different warehouses full of toys. He has armed guards and a compound with a high wire fence that's electrified. But you've got to have
my gosh.
some pretty
Chris
incredible
comes
Star
over
Wars
and,
toys.
walks the perimeter for me.
There's the guard changes hourly. There's a laser grid like an entrapment. But I'm curious, you must have a lot of cool Star. Do you have one, Spike, that you would consider the pinnacle of your Star Wars items that you have?
Back in the day, I had almost everything very similar to Chris. The only thing I was missing was a yak face. And Chris, do you even have one of those?
No, I don't. And that's the weird thing is I grew up with Micronauts, and I love the ships of the Micronauts line. So, but when it comes to Star Wars, and nothing against the figures, but I will tell you, I have 2 Boba Fett's with the rocket-firing backpacks. It's one still in a white box, which that's where they mailed it, and I have one out of the white box. But I have 2 of those. Where they're at, I have no clue. But it's the rocket-firing, which obviously we all know is well worth the money. But I have one still in the shipping box and one without the shipping box. So that's probably, I love Boba Fett, Star Wars, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and R2-D2. But to have that stuff was amazing. And when it comes to figures, I'm not big into figures other than the 3. Like I said, the Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and R2-D2. But I love the ships. They're amazing designs. And when it comes to that, which we'll talk about here in the future, hopefully in this conversation, there's some things that people need to start watching on ToyMan Facebook page, because you're going to be astounded what shows up at ToyMan here in the next within the next, I say year, because we're celebs wise. So
okay, and speaking of that's a perfect segue because you've got a Star Wars. That's one of the reasons we're talking Star Wars toys tonight. Not only the great James Earl Jones having passed away last week, but also you've got a Star Wars guest coming to ToyMan in 2 weeks, Chris.
So yeah, we have Warren Prohl. He's been in several. He's prominently more Star Wars movies than playing Jen is for his stand-in. He's also been in a couple scenes for the Troopers, and he's also a night trooper also. So there's a lot of the troopers and people that are into the Stormtrooper lines, and then all the figures that go with it, and him being in Star Wars. So yeah, we have Warren coming for Warren Prohl. And I'm going to go ahead and mention this as I'm already on this thing about Star Wars. Of course, we have Warren coming in September 29th. We do have the great Scott Innes, the voice of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yes.
We have him coming back in November. And then to end the year, we have someone that does, it looks like AI artistry, but we have that person coming. I forgot his name is escaping me. Charles Marzant is bringing him. But I'm also bringing in Miss Christine Gailey. Miss Christine Gailey is the first R2-D2 little person that's been in the Book of Fett, The Mandalorian, and she does play some other roles for Star Wars. Huh. She's going to be our December guest for Toys for Tots, along with Scott Innes for November. I haven't really dropped the whole Christine Gailey, but I just got confirmation, and we just chatted about less than a week ago.
Fantastic. Wow, that's very impressive. Yeah, that's one of the things
we're trying to do Star Wars.
I mean, there's always just without the special guests. If you've never been to ToyMan before, and just like I always say, if someone listening right now, this may be the first time they're hearing my radio show for whatever reason, they just happen across it. The next ToyMan might be your first ToyMan. You may have never gone before. You may live in the greater St. Louis area, and you may be like, you know what, I've always meant to go to that, but I never have. And it's just not the cool stuff you're going to see, but it's the guests you bring in, like Scott Innes, and like the Star Wars people you bring in, like the artists and everything. You've had Philo Barnhart's been there and things like that. You just had the Animaniacs guest at the last show and everything. So there's always something there for everybody, and it's such a cool experience just to go and walk through and see all the toys and the cars and the posters and the comics that people bring to sell.
Oh, definitely. And I will have to say that I am honored because also, which we obviously the ToyMan Show is 8 times a year held at the Machinists Hall. Now, I'm sure everyone here listening knows who the Shriners are, right?
Of
Shriners
course, yeah.
Moolah Circus. Shriners has asked ToyMan to assist them in an event. So we actually have a Shriners event coming up October the 27th, held at the Shriner Center, the Moolah Shriner Center in Maryland Heights on Fifi, October 27th. It's a limited 100 tables, but it's going to be toys, collectibles, and crafts. So we're opening this up so bigger and better. But this is an event that they asked ToyMan to be a part of. So it's not my event, but I'm assisting them. So ToyMan is going to have ToyMan vendors, and we're going to have a lot of other stuff, other collectibles things there also. Special guests we're still working on if we don't have one, but this is something that Shriners has asked ToyMan to be a part of, and it took me a few months to decide to do it, but that's part of it. And I do believe, Spike, you're going to be front and center on one of those tables right when you first walk in the hall, too.
And I'm honored, and I thank you for having me.
Yeah, that sounds like, I know, Chris, you post about that. That sounds very, very like a cool event that people should definitely check out. And if people just now heard this, what were the dates again on it?
Okay, so the Shriner event is the October 27th. It runs between our September ToyMan and then into our November show. But the Shriners event held at the Fifi in Maryland Heights. It's the Shriner Moolah Center on Fifi. Less than 100 tables. This is their first show. They've asked ToyMan and his vendors to be part of this new event. Yes, it is an event that the money is going to Shriners. We all know what Shriners does for children. So this is definitely a great cause. I'm honored that they asked me to be a part of this. They're giving away somewhere between $300 and $400. They're going to have 50-50 raffles. It's all going to be about for the Shriners, the kids, the Moolah Circus type thing. So definitely, I'm pumped for that.
That's very cool. And the upcoming ToyMan that we just mentioned will be September the 29th. So 2 weeks from today. It's in Bridgeton, Missouri, at the kind of the intersection there. If you go to 270 in the Rock Road, it's kind of adjacent. I shouldn't say adjacent, but in the same parking lot as Target, so it's easy to get to and easy to find. There's always plenty of free parking at the event, and if that not alone, everything we've already said is enough to enthrall you and want to make you show up, Spike's going to be there too. So that alone would be a huge draw. And I know Spike, you always, every time you show up, you've got different stuff every single time. So can you give anyone a little preview of what you're thinking about bringing with you to this current one?
Just come and see, because there's always a surprise.
And it's usually, you've got toys literally from, how far back, the oldest toys you actually have that you're selling? Is it 50s or is it mostly 60s?
I specialize in anything from the 50s to the present.
Okay.
So yeah, come and see. I always have something new and something special for hopefully everybody.
But just if you're listening, he does not have any Bionic 6 toys, so don't ask him. Don't ask him about Bionic 6 toys.
No, I don't have any of the ones I'm looking at on my wall. Okay.
That's an inside joke between Spike and I, but no, it's
yes,
always
indeed.
fun. And how many vendors, Chris, do you usually have? It's a huge number.
Okay, so yeah, this event's coming up. We'll have 138 vendors on 220 some odd tables. And you know what? I can sit here and brag about my toy show and all the Star Wars guests, and we've had Ninja Turtle guests, and we've had Power Ranger guests come to it. But I'll tell you what, you go on YouTube and you type in ToyMan Show or ToyMan St. Louis, and those aren't my videos.
Right.
The videos that are on YouTube are the collectors that have come to the show that brag about the show. I didn't pay them.
That's right.
I didn't tell them to drop them. You go on there. Let the collectors that attend ToyMan to buy and sell tell the story of ToyMan. Because I tell you what, out of 138 vendors, approximately 110 to 115 have paid from show to show, or they pay for the year. Now, how do you have an event that's been running since 1990 that has, I barely have 10 to 15 tables to rotate from show to show that people cancel, or I can't make this show, that we try to get new stuff. Obviously, the vendors are doing great. The collectors, I have 800 to 1,500 to 1,700 people. I got Scooby-Doo, the voice actor for Scooby-Doo, who was just here earlier this year in January, requesting, his words, I'm coming back before the end of the year. So he's coming back in November. So that's not me selling it. That's them selling it.
Yeah.
You guys, Spike, all the other collectors. My collection, toy collection, was probably 50% was bought at ToyMan.
Yeah, and I will be set up there as well. I will be selling some of my stuff. I got the framed comic book posters. I've got comic books themselves and a lot of stuff that I'll be getting rid of, and we'll have information if any of you are interested in Two Rivers Comic Con. I'll be able to talk with you in person about that event as well. I
do want to say one thing, and Spike and James, you guys all heard about Batman coming to St. Louis, right?
I did, yes.
Yes.
Carl Newman. I am flying
indeed.
Carl Newman. Okay, so Batman 89, one of the best Michael Keaton movies for Batman. All the close-ups were Michael Keaton. You saw Batman jump in the Batmobile with Kim Basinger. That wasn't Michael Keaton. That was Carl Newman.
Huh.
Almost 100% of the Batman jumping in or dropping down from the ceiling or standing on top of a building wasn't Michael Keaton. It's Carl Newman. And ToyMan is flying Carl Newman from London, England for the first time showing in St. Louis. He'll be at the QuadCon October the 20th in St. Charles. We're going to have a showing at a theater. We have an 89 Batmobile coming from Tennessee. And we'll have photo ops. Wow. We're going to have a VIP gathering. You can get things signed by Carl Newman. You'll get a photo with. We have a movie-used bat suit.
And I've already tried it on. It fits me, so I appreciate you making sure that worked, Chris.
Was that you the other night outside my window?
But
and me being a Batman fanatic, not including Star Wars, I got all kinds of. No, it's gonna be amazing. ToyMan's being part of a lot of different things here in St. Louis, and toy collecting is just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, that's an exciting event too, and we're probably going to. If I'm not mistaken, I think we've got Carl scheduled to be on prior to that event on October 20th. So we're going to be talking with him. I've got my calendar here. We'll be talking with Carl. I believe it's on either the 6th or the 13th. I've got his name written on both days, so I'll have to check with Bobby and see which day we're going to have him on. We'll be having him on to promote that event that he'll be here. So if you're a Batman 89 fan, make sure you put that one on your list of things to check out.
Bobby Akers is amazing. He's got Carl Newman he's the manager for Carl Newman, and there's going to be interviews, like almost a dozen interviews just in the St. Louis market alone about Carl Newman being in St. Louis for the QuadCons October 20th. So yeah, ToyMan's part of QuadCon, bringing Carl Newman to that, obviously with the Shriners on the 27th. Scooby-Doo. We have Star Wars for the next week. I've already talked about. I can't say names as of yet, but we have a whole new lineup of new individuals coming back around for our 2025 dates, and ToyMan's continuing to be run by myself, Chris McQuillen. But like I said, as long as the collectors and the vendors keep backing it, we'll continue to have the show and have some fun. Where big kids come to have fun.
That's amazing. And if people want to keep up, let's start with Spike. Social media, if people want to find out more about you, your website and things like that.
Lost in Space Toys and Collectibles.com. And can I make a quick plug for our comic book show?
Please do, yeah.
All right. I'm blessed to be honored to work with David Schmidt of All American Collectibles.
Yeah.
And we run the St. Louis Comic Book Show Spectre Club. It is the longest running comic show in St. Louis. And our next show will be, actually, we have one today, but our next show is November 24th, which is in Shrewsbury, 7300 Lansdowne. So hopefully everybody can come and make that.
Perfect.
That's the biggest small show there is. I will tell you, I'm a little bit in comic books. You go in there, and you can be in there for an hour or two, and you still haven't seen everything. Biggest small show there is.
Chris.
Oh, that's a fantastic show, and we'll make sure to put that on the calendar. So if you're listening, we'll have a link to that, so you can check that out as well. And Chris, for people who want to find out about ToyMan, where would you send them?
ToyManShow.com, ToyMan Show on Facebook. We got Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on ToyMan STL. You can find us. On the web, social medias. If you can't find us, type in Toyman on Google. They always talk about these advertisers like, hey, have you ever heard of Toyman? Just Google Toyman St. Louis or Toyman Show. You'll find the Toyman ad. If not, just follow this show and you'll find me that way through James.
Perfect. Spike, Chris, I appreciate you both taking time on a Sunday to chat toys, chat Star Wars, and I'll see you both in 2 weeks.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Thanks, you too.
See ya.
There
Bye-bye.
they go.
Bye-bye.
That'll be a great show. Make sure you check out ToyMan Toy Show. We'll have more information about QuadCon as it draws closer. We're going to take a very brief commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with David Taylor about a brand new Kickstarter project he's got going on. If you're a comic book fan, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Stand by. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio. We'll be back in 1 moment.
You balance and twist. You try it once, you'll get the gist. No two twists come out the same. Twister is a Milton Bradley game.
Twister from Milton Bradley.
Another Tycho Superblocks adventure. You've got to capture the enemy command post. Looks like a job for Tycho Superblocks. You have to strike hard, so you build the combat tank, the half-track, the mauler, and the rocket launcher. You send in your fast attack vehicle, then the attack chopper for support. You break through, you've won, and you've done it. Another great adventure with Superblocks. They work with Lego too. Tycho Superblocks, Military Adventure Series, 10 building sets, each sold separately. New from Tycho.
It looks so golden. Holds up to 40 Star Wars action figures, like new Squid Head and Emperor's Royal Guard, each sold separately. And besides the new C-3PO collector's case, there's a new Chewbacca bandolier strap. Fits over your shoulder for play and holds 10 action figures securely, like new Princess Leia.
Hello, this is Jim Cummings, and this is Hondo Naka. Don't move an inch. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio, and I will be checking on you.
Since we're talking Star Wars there, I felt it only appropriate you come back with a Jim Cummings Hondo Anaka return liner. We'll make sure we tell you, too, about another person who will be at the ToyMan Toy Show is my comic book sponsor, Larry from Bugs Comics and Games. If you are wanting to check out some comics, if you're wanting to either get back in after having not collected for a while, maybe you're brand new and you want to see what it's all about, whatever the level at you're in your hobby collecting, comic collecting hobby, check out Bugs Comics and Games. He's right there on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. You can catch him from either Highway 70 or from 364. Get Bryan Road and head in. You'll see Bugs Comics and Games. It's a great place to look for comics. And I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but someone pointed out, is it really a comic book store if they don't have back issues? Because sometimes they just have the new issues, and that's great. But I like to rifle through and see all the old stuff and see the, the comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And Larry's got all those. He's got some fantastic comics in the case. The first appearance of Black Panther, I think, in there. The first Thing versus Hulk fight from Fantastic Four number 25. A bunch of great Lee and Kirby stuff. He's got Western comics. He's got stuff from the 80s, which is that's kind of my wheelhouse. And stuff from the 90s, 2000s, and the current stuff. I know we just lost a great artist in Mr. Cassidy with his work on Astonishing X-Men, things like that. They've got a lot of those comics in there if you want to go back and just kind of check out some of his artwork and some of the comics that he worked on. Or if you just, hey, I like the new issues, well, then join the Avengers Club. You start saving money on your new issues, your back issues, your toys, your games. That way you can keep collecting and enjoy your hobby without having to sacrifice large portions of your wallet. It's a great way to do it. And if you're out of the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, like our friend DT, who's about to join us, you can follow Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook and check him out on Instagram, Bugs Comics and A&D Games. He posts stuff on there, and you see something you like, you say, hey, I'd like that. Type in claim. He sends you a PayPal invoice. You pay it, and he sends you the stuff right to your door, securely packaged and shipped. Bugs Comics and Games. Let Larry be your personal comic concierge. Very proud to have Bugs Comics as our official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. And he will be at ToyMan coming up 2 weeks from now, so you can check out the stuff he brings there also. Speaking of my guest, we've got David Taylor. We resolved it during the break. We're calling him DT, which I know is his Twitter handle as well, and talking about an exciting new project he's got. Thanks for taking time on a Sunday to join the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. We haven't had you on before, which I'm glad we're kind of checking that box now and getting you on. And I know you've done a lot of stuff with comics. You're very knowledgeable about comics because I love your commentary and your insight on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, give them a follow. It's DT2 comics, correct?
Comics Chat.
Comics Chat. There you go. So we'll have a link to that if you want to follow him on Twitter, because it's always a lot of cool insights and just unique perspectives on the comic book world, be it the movies or the comic books themselves. But you've got a new project that I believe it's launching today.
No, my marketing team, we got together. We had to push the launch because there's some more goodies we want to put in there.
Okay.
So it's actually going to launch on the 27th.
27th. Okay, so you've got some time. So this is great. We're getting you early so that people can kind of get in on the ground and keep an eye on it. I know the pre-launch is up, so if you go to Kickstarter, you can find it. And this is Z Normals. Tell people a little bit about what this is about.
Oh, man. What if you could turn pain into powers? And what if the people that taught you how to do that was the mafia? Right. See, that's a look. I get that look every time. Every time I get that look.
So is it set in current times? Is it placed futuristic, or where's the timeline kind of fall? Because you say mafia, and I think 1950s Vegas or 1930s New York.
It's set in relatively current times, but it's also in fictional cities.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll recognize it's a little bit of Batman the Animated Series where we use retro, some retro flavor, but it has a contemporary setting. So it's happening now, but it's got a little bit of retro mixed into it.
And why are they? You named them Z Normals. This is the name of the group. Why that name?
Okay, I'm going to read the definition because I don't want to mess it up.
Okay.
Z Normals is a statistical term, a standard normal table. It's used to find the probability that a statistic is observed below, above, or between values on the standard normal distribution. I'm using that in the context of if you have challenges and society, labels you, or, you're not a part of a mainstream or whatever that plays out in your life. And then you get superpowers based on that challenge. Where does that put you? Where does that put you morally? Where does that put you ethically? How do you deal with that? Just like when we first meet Peter Parker, he's 15 years old.
Right.
And he wants what anybody 15 would want: cars, attention from the girls, money.
Right.
Then a tragedy in his life is actually what turns Peter into a superhero, because he wanted to be a celebrity. And so my book is about, if you already were coming from a life of challenge, like cancer, blindness, being a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, or some type of birth situation, you already had a different life than what people would consider normal. And then somebody comes along and turns that into a superpower. What does that do to you up here? So that's what the book is about.
And when you say it turns it into a superpower, is it different? I kind of think of a mutant where each one's gonna be a little bit different, or does a certain type of pain turn into a certain type of power? How does, I don't want you to spoil anything. I want people to read this and be amazed, but can you elaborate a little bit on that method?
Yeah, it's not like mutation at all. It's very much, it's a combination of technology and science.
Okay.
And so it takes your particular situation, and then the powers you get are a result of what that situation was.
All right. Boy, if pain could be a superpower, I would be like the most powerful person. I'd be like Dr. Manhattan right now. I'm telling you.
That's another one I get all the time.
So what? How did this concept come about for you? Because you've written other comics and everything like that. Was this kind of something that was always germinating and just kind of like, this is the good time to put it out? How did this come about?
Well, long story short, I wanted to create a comics company and therefore a platform where I could tell the stories that I wanted to tell. And so I figured instead of going the traditional route, I'm like, why don't you just make your own? And so this story has been germinating inside of me for a very long time, because I don't know how to say this, because I'm not politically correct. I don't know. We are a society that's obsessed with what I'll call labels,
Okay.
and we get so much of our societal standards from TV and movies.
Okay.
And TV and movies tend to paint people with broad brushes. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying that a human life is more complex than that. But when you watch like The Breakfast Club, a brain, a jock, a nerd, a princess, a weirdo, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the way we tend to. So I'm always like, ever since I was little, I'm always like, what happens if you just don't fit in any kind of category? What happens if your life, if you're a bunch of things?
Yeah.
Because that's been my experience in life. So when you're African American, many times people will assume things about you. And so, but that's true for every group. That's not just true for Black people. Every group, every gender, every age, every generation, X, Y, Z, millennial, whatever. So what happens though, when you have a life that's more complex and more nuanced, and it has more layers than that broad brush they painted you with? So that's kind of been my energy my whole life. And so this book is kind of a reflection of that thought, that you're born or you experience something that gives you a challenge, but then that challenge gets flipped. And then what do you do with it?
Very interesting. Yeah, and the people you might look at me and like, oh, he's probably bad at sports, and see that's a correct assumption. So I will let that one. I usually let that one go. I was a triple threat in high school. I was small, skinny, and not very fast at all. So it was kind of not a good combination for me for sports or anything like that. But to your point, yeah, some people don't. Some people fit multiple boxes and can't be just contained in one. So that's well put. Yeah, to your point.
Yeah. One of the big controversies around the Snow White movie is when Peter Dinklage said that he thought some parts of it were progressive, meaning they hired a Latina to play a clearly Caucasian character, but he said we still had dwarves in caves. That set off a whole firestorm.
I remember that, yeah.
And then dwarves that were looking for acting jobs, which don't come along that often, were upset about that whole thing. And the funniest thing about that is that they work in a cave, but they don't live in a cave.
Right, yeah.
The seven dwarves have never lived in a cave. They work in mines, but they live in a house.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is that we just live in a time where those broad strokes tend to become the story. And I'm like, no, people are way more complex than that. People have stories to tell. And so that's why I created my company. And this group in particular, you'll see as the issues come out, you'll see their stories, what they're thinking, where they come from. And everybody doesn't have the same reaction to getting superpowers.
And if you're just now joining us, we're talking with David Taylor, DT, about his comic book. We have a link to it that we're going to put up at the bottom of the page. If you're listening to us after the fact in the podcast form, scroll down to the bottom of the page and we'll have a link to the Kickstarter, which is going live, you said the 27th?
27th, Friday the 27th.
So yeah. you can put a bookmark on it at least, and you can make sure you watch it. And then the 27th comes, you can make sure to be one of the first people to jump in on this. We're going to take another brief commercial break. We're going to come back and chat more with my guests. Or something you'd like to ask them about creating comics, you can send us a text in the chats there, which I haven't paid attention to again tonight. I'm sorry, I'll go back and look at those. But we've also got the text lines, the KTRS text lines at 84126. Just send us your name, where you're texting from, and your question. We'll get to that. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Raisin Hopper's Electric Racing. You get the jump on the competition. Your Raisin Hopper blasts full bore up Monster Mountain. You dive fearlessly over the top and cut him off as you blast for the boulders. Then you squeeze him out and leave him up a creek. You don't dare back off even when you want to most, because winning off-road takes skill and guts, especially when it's Raisin Hoppers. Raisin Hopper's Electric Racing. New from Tyco, of course. This is the world of outlaws. Turbo Outlaws, radio-controlled machines, the most awesome, open-wheel, action-packed, dirt racing monsters ever built. With outlaw moves and outlaw skill from Tyco RC. Just hit the turbo trigger for turbo power and feed into the draw. Cause there's a little outlaw in all of us. Radio-controlled turbo outlaws, only from Tyco RC.
You can do it, Upsy, baby. She's getting up all by herself. Quick, get the kid.
Details at cardinals.com/theme.
Hey, this is Yuri Lowenthal, but you may know me recently as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Geek to Me Radio, heard here every Sunday night, 9 o'clock on the Big 550 KTRS. That's 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. For those of you listening outside the Midwest corridor here, covering the world of pop culture. Want to make sure we tell you about the people who make this show possible. Our premier sponsor, of course, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. They've been with me since I launched the show in August of 2016. Can you believe that? They've stuck with me this entire time. Great partners because they do a lot of great work out there. You know the website discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. We're kind of in the middle of September, which means October is right around the corner. You can feel the weather starting to cool down. The leaves are going to be starting to fall pretty soon. And I'm so excited. Fall's one of my favorite seasons. I'd say probably it's a toss-up between fall and spring, whichever one I'm closest to. That's usually my favorite of the two seasons. But fall is exciting because Halloween, my favorite holiday. And if you're a Halloween fan, no better place to celebrate than the Greater St. Charles area. If you go down to Main Street right there in the cobblestone streets, these are buildings that were built back in the 17 and 1800s. It's a great place to engage with Lizzie Borden. She'll show you how to swing an axe. You can talk to the Brothers Grimm and Mary Shelley. They'll tell you about their famous literary creations. You can talk to the Big Bad Wolf if you dare. We've got monster hunters out. We've got a roaming band of minstrels called the Angry Villagers who are there to banish the monsters. All sorts of fun. You can talk to Ichabod Crane and try to help him summon up the courage to get through the day. It's a great time. You can actually interact with all these people, and everything is 100% free. You just go down there and enjoy the festival. While you're down there, check out all the shops and the restaurants because this place is all made up of small businesses like Chuck and Lou or like Kilwins or all these great places up and down. They have a Salt and Smoke that's right there. That the patio is always packed. This is a great time of year. Sit out in the patio, have some barbecue, have a nice glass of bourbon with your barbecue. That's kind of fall to me. That's a great thing about fall. If you've not been before, maybe you're in the Greater St. Louis listening area, haven't been to St. Charles lately, there's always a new shop opening up. Cardinal Sin Distillery right there where they do small batch bourbons. They have a brown sugar bourbon. If that doesn't say fall, come on. Get yourself some Granny Smith apples and wash those down with some brown sugar bourbon from Cardinal Sin. Again, that sounds like a nice way to spend a Sunday to me. But it's all these small businesses, all these small shops. And in this economy, it's never been more important to support small businesses. So check them out. Start with the website. Maybe you're not local. Maybe you're on one of the coasts. Maybe you're listening from the UK. A lot of our new YouTube subscribers I'm seeing are from the UK. Maybe you want to plan a trip. Maybe Halloween's your thing. Come over to the colonies and have some fun in historic St. Charles. Start your trip, no matter where you're coming from, at the website, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Talking for the rest of the hour here with my guest, DT, about his comic. The Z-Normals Kickstarter launches on the 27th. This isn't your first crack at comic books, though. You've done these before. Did the Kickstarter? Do you enjoy this? Does it kind of fire you up a little bit, or is it kind of like, yeah, we'll do a Kickstarter? Because I've seen artists and writers feel both ways about it.
Well, the way I feel about it is I love connecting with people. I love connecting with potential fans, and I said it in my video earlier today. I think it's very, very important. And by the way, I need you to cosplay Billy Batson. You're giving me strong Billy Batson. I need the red shirt and the yellow thing and oh man, you could crush it.
I don't know if I'm young enough. I don't look like an 8-year-old boy. So I mean,
don't worry about that. Just dye your hair black and put on the inner.
Billy Batson. That's not what I've got. I need to find someone really ripped to stand behind me. So when I yell Shazam, they can just take my place.
Yeah, no, Michael Gray pulled that off for years, so don't even worry about it. But anyway, the answer to that question is I love connecting with fans. I love connecting with people. Everybody's got a story to tell. But I said it earlier in the live stream I did earlier. Whatever it is that you do, you have to understand the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're out there on the football field, you're not trying to, shoot a basket. You got to understand the game you're playing. You got to understand the assignment. Well, I understand that as a writer, it's my job because I'm asking for something from people. And what you want from people is time, energy, and finances.
Right.
And nobody owes you anything. So I'm grateful, if people give you their time, if people give you their emotional investment, if people support you financially, that's theirs to give. They don't owe you that. But my job is to create compelling stories with interesting characters and take you on a journey. And good art always makes you think.
Yeah.
Good art always makes you take out what you believe and look at it. So I wanted to be on a platform where I could express that in many ways as I could, that I'm team good stories. I'm trying to write the best stories that I can. And when you're doing Kickstarters, you're talking to people that are looking for good comics and good stories. So I'm good with it.
And so many creators are turning to Kickstarter. They're self-publishing. Even some already established people like Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor do a lot of great Kickstarters that they do. I know it was Ron Friends and Tom DeFalco just did a really cool one for The Right Stuff. RIGHT is an acronym, but it seems like this is kind of the way comic books might be going.
Well, it's how can I say this? Once again, it comes down to knowing how to do your job, knowing the assignment. If you go to a restaurant and you say, I'd like some salmon and I'd like some okra, and they bring you a burger and some fries and say, why don't you like that? Why don't you eat that? That'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, you're a bigot. What? So we've gotten off into these conversations that don't have anything to do with telling good stories, because that's my job. I'm a writer. And so, yes, it's going to be political. Yes, some people are going to like it. Yes, some people won't. But welcome to Earth. People have opinions. You know what I'm saying? So, but I want to stay focused on doing my job, which is telling those good stories. And these characters, the stuff I want to do is stuff that's been inside me since I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote my first comic book when I was 5.
Wow.
So I'm glad I'm finally at a place in my life where I can get out there and do it professionally and, do it right and all that, because it takes a lot of work to put a comic together, as I know.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying that it doesn't surprise me that more and more creators would want to do it that way. So you can tell the stories you want to tell, and also so you can let people know up front, this is what you get when you get me, and this is what you get if you read this book, as opposed to having to go through hoops and just a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with here's the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Our friends Chance and Patrick Stewart McCullough, good to see you, and Kevin Gillette all agree with you. Then Kevin adds to this, David's a great creator with an amazing story. You're going to want this book, so that's another endorsement from this book. You're going to check out. The Kickstarter drops on the 27th. I know you live in this world. You're a big pop culture fan. I'm not sure what my microphone, those of you who are watching on the stream right now, my microphone appears to be a little not well, because it keeps just slowly lowering on me. I may have to give it a pill or something here to keep it up. You've been watching all this stuff. What are your thoughts on, I haven't had a chance to really talk about, how do you like Deadpool and Wolverine?
I thought it was kind of peak for what it was. I thought it did what it did extremely well. And it, to me, was another example of understanding the assignment, of putting actors on the screen that the fans have longed to see together, putting actors in roles that they are that person they crush. Ryan Reynolds crushes as Deadpool. Hugh Jackman is, we have loved him as Wolverine since the year 2000. It's 2024.
That's crazy, yeah.
And then all the cameos and it was also a good way to use the multiverse to do a reset. I think Deadpool and Wolverine did what The Flash tried to do.
Agreed,
The Flash, Flash should have been more of a Flashpoint thing, but I don't think that the Flash pulled it off. But I think they did here. And it's when you give people what they want, that's why it just cleared 1.3 billion. We want to, have a good time. We want to see the actors we love. We want to see the characters we love. We want to go on a journey with them. And of course, I had two favorite cameos. I guess I can spoil since the movie's been out for a while.
At this point, yeah.
My two favorite cameos were Johnny Storm, because Unicorn is my favorite Marvel character, and of course, Blade.
Oh my gosh, that was so well done.
Blade had the best line in the movie. So he stole the whole, he's on screen, 5-10 minutes, and he steals the whole movie. So that's what I mean when I say that somebody, probably Ryan Reynolds from what I've read, that understood the assignment. This is what people want. This will be fun. This will be a hoot. And also, when you are a performer of any kind, the audience gets the strongest sense of what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when the actors have that buddy cop thing going on and it feels legit to them, then it feels legit to us, and we love that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I want to see, I hope somebody uses this as a template and gives us Booster and Beetle, and gives us Nightwing and Wally West, and gives us the buddy cop stuff we've always wanted to see, because they got it. And I think they nailed it.
And I think Young Justice did a great job of that with the Nightwing and the Wally and the Roy kind of dynamic with that group. So bring someone like Greg Wiseman and Brandon Vietti on to But I feel like I can't remember who I was talking to, but someone said they don't trust the animation people or the comic book writers in certain cases to do the live action adaptations. It's like, why? These people have been in that world. They understand it. They get it. And the fans gravitate toward that. So you're going to bring in some hotshot A-list writer who, in your words, doesn't get the assignment. And then they wonder why the movie flops and tanks. And it's maddening. But we could go on about that for a while yet.
Let me give you a quick personal experience about that. That question you just asked, or that statement you just made, I said the same thing to Mark Waid. I met him at a convention, and I said what you just said almost verbatim. And he said, David, here's the deal. He said, sometimes they have deals with writers already in place, and we as comic writers can't get cut in. Sometimes they don't want to pay us, but they'd have to pay us. And sometimes you have people that don't take the source material seriously. And how often have we seen that?
All the time, yeah.
So they think, my favorite example is the progression of the Chris Reeve Superman movies. When you have Donner and Mario Puzo and Mankiewicz on that first film, it's epic, it's classic, and we still love it. By the time we get to Superman 3, that's what the Salkinds wanted, because Superman's supposed to be big, dumb, and goofy. And so Mark Waid was saying many times it's that behind the scenes stuff. And it's really a shame. I wish there was something we could do to kind of open up the way to get some of our favorite comic writers into screenplays, into that kind of thing, because they get it. And like you said, Young Justice is a great example of what happens when you let the original writers write the characters that they developed.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I will never argue that Superman, the movie from '78, is not one of the greatest comic book movies ever. But I've got a very soft place in my heart for Superman 3, because Richard Pryor cracked me up that entire movie. His play against the guy, I can't remember the actor's name now, who passed away, the man from U.N.C.L.E., their interplay, just him being straight-faced. It was like, what am I doing with this guy? And Richard Pryor just chewing the scenery. I'm always going to have a soft place for Superman 3. And that terrified me when the girl gets all roboticized in the thing.
Oh, yeah. Whew. Lady Brainiac. Yeah, no, we still got nightmares about that one.
Yeah, that as a child, that was one of the more traumatizing. That and Return to Oz, two movies I probably should have been a little older before I saw, but that is what it is. The hour's about chewed up here. I want to make sure we tell people where to find you, social media handles, websites, and things like that, and we'll mention the Kickstarter again. Take it away.
Okay, my website is davidtaylor2, the number 2, davidtaylor2.net. And it's going through rebuilding so that everybody can have my books better laid out there, because I have a lot of different things I write. I write fantasy, I write sci-fi, I write children's books, and I also write comic books. So you can find all that on davidtaylor2.net. Find me online on Twitter. I'm on Twitter every day. DT2 Comics Chat. DT, the number 2, Comics Chat. I'm on Twitter every day, doing what I do, talking about what I love. And then on Instagram, I am DT2 author. So that's where to find me. Those are the best places to reach me. And those are the places I frequent the most. And then, meeting people like you and meeting, your people, when you meet your people, when you meet your tribe, when you meet your folks, there's just something about that. So I always call Twitter as the con that never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know some people have complained about this or that with Twitter, but I've made some great connections on Twitter, and I've enjoyed it. So things are what you make of them. If you're going to, light a candle instead of cursing the darkness, that's what I always say. So if hopefully those of you who are on Twitter are enjoying the content that David and myself are putting out. And our friend Chance from the Nostalgic Pod Blast again mentioned Robert Vaughn was the actor's name, who the man from Uncle. And he also points out that the Clark versus Evil Superman, that was a cool moment too in the junkyard when they had the big fight. That was one of my favorites as a kid. I'd always rewind the VHS tape because that's how old I am watching that one. But we're coming to the end of the hour here. I can't thank you enough. Again, you're going to want to check out the Z-Normals, the Kickstarter. We'll have that link in the show notes. If you're listening to it after the fact, scroll down to the bottom of the page. We'll have that there, launching on the 27th. DT, I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Do I have time to throw something out real quick?
Please do. Yeah.
One of our characters' names are actually conjoined twins.
Okay.
And they're conjoined at the hands. When they power up, they separate, and they get vision powers. So their name is Vision.
Oh, how cool. Okay. So, very neat. And then, so they decouple when they're powered up, though.
Yes. Yes. And get all kind of stuff, all kind of X-ray, all the cool visions.
Very neat. All right, so just another reason, if you like what he said, and I don't see how you couldn't. Like I said, it's about the story, it's about the quality of the characters. So make sure you check out the Z-Normals. David, DT, thanks again. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Before we sign off here, I want to make sure we tell you about the upcoming Comic Con. If you're listening right now, you're going to want to mark May 23rd through the 25th on your calendar. I'm looking down at my show notes here. 2 Rivers Comic Con, the number 2 Rivers Comic Con, coming to St. Charles. This is going to be partly held at the Foundry, partly held at the Steel Shop, so it's right there on Riverside. The great thing about having a con in St. Charles is it's lots of free parking, and unlike a normal con where you're in a giant convention center and there's should we get the stale pretzels or should we get kind of the hot dogs with the so-so buns? No, this has all these restaurants that I just got done telling you about along St. Charles Main Street where you can go get barbecue, you can go get Peruvian food, you can have the sweets, you want a burger, you want pizza, all sorts of cool things from the actual restaurants right there up and down the street. Historic St. Charles is a great place anyway, as we mentioned in our last ad, to visit. So I'm very excited to hold this convention, and we've just added Stephen Butler and Lily Butler. So if you're a fan of the Scarlet Spider, Stephen Butler did a lot of those Web of Spider-Man comics. His daughter works on the Archie comics a lot, so those are our 2 newest names. We'll be putting those on the website as listed guests pretty soon. We've got some more guests coming. Obviously, we already told you we're going to have Phil Lamar, we're going to have Susan Eisenberg, Maria Canals Barrera from the Justice League, and we're going to have Dan Reba, the director and storyboard artist for the Justice League, and Alan Burnett from Batman Beyond, a bunch of other cartoons, Ozzy and Drix. So we're very excited to bring this convention to St. Charles. So if you're listening right now, the tickets are live. Just go to the number 2 Rivers Comic Con, click on the tickets page. Tickets are available right now at a lower price. They're going to pop up again in the coming months. I can't remember what the date we set was when they go up to their regular price, but you can get early bird pricing now if you check out the website, 2 Rivers Comic Con. And you can get the tickets right there on the site. Very excited to have this. We'll have guest announcements going up there as well. Follow 2 Rivers Comic Con on Twitter, and you can keep up with all the guest announcements as they happen. That's going to do it. Another show in the books. Thanks again to Chris McQuillen, ToyMan Toy Show, coming up on September 29th. Thanks to Spike Forster as well for his expertise and knowledge. Thanks to DT about his comic Z-Normals. And as always, thanks to all the listeners out there. Thanks to Joey V for making the show sound and look as good as it does. I think I'm flashing the right camera.
It's not in the way you watch I zombie.
Flash both cameras so you can see Joey V.
It's not in the way you watch the Flash.
Sound and look as good as it does. Thank you all for listening, and until next week, my friends.
You love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. That's our show.